On November 14th, Fallout 76 will release. Among Bethesda's flagship franchises, Fallout 76 deviates from its post-apocalyptic single-player predecessors in that it's multiplayer-centric, a survival game played across an open map that's shared with friends and other players. It's a new direction for both the Fallout series and Bethesda themselves, both pinnacles of single-player gaming for more than a decade. The announcement caused as much surprise as worries Fallout 76 would be a gateway game for Bethesda, giving the predominantly single-player inclined company an opening through which to steer the Fallout license down a multiplayer avenue, similar to the way Ubisoft has turned Rainbow Six or Ghost Recon, IPs once known for tactical realism, into arcadey live service experiences. While those worries are pretty much entirely unfounded, Fallout 76 only being a spin-off and not a new direction for the Fallout IP, Bethesda's job announcing and explaining what Fallout 76 is and how it'll work hasn't been stellar. The company announced Fallout 76 on May 30th, and little more than the name was officially confirmed leading up to E3 in June. Now confirmed spot-on reporting by Kotaku's Jason Schreier detailed Fallout 76 as a multiplayer title with survival elements and base building, the finer details remaining obscure. Then, at Bethesda's E3 press conference, Todd Howard took stage and continued with the vague details.
Fallout 76 is entirely online. Of course, you can play this solo. You can build wherever you want. And you can also then move that to wherever you want.
What does playing solo mean? What does entirely online mean? How would base building work? Bethesda's E3 press conference didn't answer these questions. It was post E3, and finding even vague explanations of Fallout 76's basic mechanics took diving through multiple interviews with multiple people from multiple outlets. How much information a publisher or developer wants you to know about their product and when they want to release it is their decision, and it's their right to parcel that information in whatever way they find appropriate. Sprinkling details across the internet while avoiding concrete answers to questions about fundamental gameplay mechanics, however, is not appropriate. That isn't how any game should be marketed, advertised, or revealed. As we near the release date, it's become much easier to find info on Fallout 76. The best place maybe being YouTube, which is another issue altogether. If you'll allow me a quick tangent, consumers should know what they're buying, and the main source of information shouldn't be from YouTubers uploading tutorials under the guise of independence, regardless of whatever degree of transparency exists. Back to the original discussion. All this limited information and confusion has overshadowed an additional continuing Bethesda controversy, one that remains somewhat under the radar: the company's review policy. Beginning with 2016's Doom, Bethesda set a policy of sending review copies to media no more than 24 hours before a game's release. This meant outlets had 24 hours to play and review an entire game before it launched, obviously nowhere near enough time. It was a harsh and negligent review policy that was rightfully criticized throughout the media. In late August this year, Bethesda's Pete Hines confirmed to VG247 the company would begin backing off the unpopular policy, telling the site, "We put out Evil Within 2 and sent it out to press well in advance. We did the same thing for Wolfenstein 2. Then there were other games that we sent out at launch. I think we're going to continue to evaluate what makes the most sense. Honestly, we were tired of reading reviews where the first paragraph spent more time talking about our review policy than the game. So we decided we're not going to keep drawing attention to it. We'll send out copies and maybe people will start talking about the game instead of talking about policies." The effects of this policy were hurtful to the video game industry, the media that covers them, and the people who buy and play them. That much is undeniable. Reviewers didn't have time to write quality reviews, and the policy depended and preyed on the public's worst tendencies, particularly to rush to make purchases. I do not think it's overdramatic to call Bethesda's previous policy censorship. It was meant to withhold information the public and media could make great use of, and we're not really sure how much that policy has changed. Whatever the case, it was not a policy that existed for the betterment of a product, service, or the industry, like responsibly withholding certain information might. Instead, it existed to create and take advantage of an ill-informed public. And here we arrive at Fallout 76's status as a multiplayer game. Sending out review copies for single-player titles 24 hours before release is unacceptable, but multiplayer titles make things a little more more complicated. Multiplayer titles have no end goal, they're meant to be played for far longer and require, well, multiple players. It makes sense that providing the time and environment to review such a game is challenging. This is a sentiment the industry would certainly have us believe. It's become accepted that multiplayer-centric games as a service exist as a genre that makes reviews impossible, if not extremely hard. And it's a sentiment I don't totally disagree with. On the surface, sending out thousands of review copies to populate large service-based games obviously seems extremely difficult, and games like Destiny or The Division are meant to be played for hundreds of hours, so sending out review codes a week in advance wouldn't be near enough time. But even while acknowledging these challenges, I still harbor some skepticism. Would it really be impossible to have Fallout 76 properly reviewed? Is it really impossible for Bethesda to provide the media with the means to review Fallout 76? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But I do know that whatever the answers to those questions are, it serves the public best if we know about a game before we purchase it. So how should we as consumers cope in this paradoxical world where games that are impossible to review still need to be reviewed? I think there's one solution that's pretty simple, and we as consumers have the power. Wait. Waiting for well-written, unrushed reviews means consumers neutralize the effectiveness of unreasonable review policies and gives the media time to evaluate games, whether or not reviewing multiplayer-centric games is actually impossible. No Man's Sky was a very bad game when it launched. Its review copies arrived really close to launch. Eurogamer, for instance, reported they received their copy the day before No Man's Sky's US release. Yet, because of hype and anticipation, because of the inability to wait, No Man's Sky was a bad game that, as a product, received undeserved success. We can go back to 2013 with SimCity. Now, infamous server troubles and an embargo made it tough for outlets to publish reviews before launch, yet people bought the game. SimCity sold 1 million copies in 2 weeks despite a disastrous launch. EA did a disservice to their consumers, to the SimCity brand, and came out just fine. These situations could have been avoided had consumers simply waited for reviews to prop up and expose each game's massive flaws. How would the industry be different if games like No Man's Sky and SimCity didn't perform as well at launch? If consumers showed publishers and developers that their passion and excitement couldn't and wouldn't be taken advantage of? What's more is that these games are better now. I played No Man's Sky for the first time this year after its recent next update, and while the game is unfortunately still bad, it's far superior to the version that originally released. And I got it on sale. I'll admit that No Man's Sky is somewhat an extreme case. You shouldn't have to wait 2 years after release for a game to become completed or better. But if we have to, is waiting 2 weeks really that bad? Is waiting a month really that bad? I don't think it is. It's okay to be excited for Fallout 76. I am really looking forward to it, if a little cautious. But this excitement must be matched by a tempered patience. Whether or not Fallout 76 is any good is irrelevant. No matter a product's quality, consumers should have time to know about a purchase before they make it, and should be provided an environment to be informed. I can see how this might make me sound arrogant. I don't have a right to tell people how and when to spend their money, and I understand that. But this is more a matter of fact than opinion. Waiting benefits consumers, benefits the media, and is healthy for the industry. Waiting means bad products don't sell, whether they be rushed to meet a deadline, broken, or even incomplete. Waiting also means bad, hurtful business practices like harsh review policies don't work. There are a lot of gray area issues in the games as a service era, issues that are hard to define and even harder to solve. But one solution we do have is waiting, patience, refusing to allow hype and impulse purchases to determine the way the gaming industry does business in the future.